Hi again, everyone. This video is sponsored by contribution from Anonymous, and here's her story. I am an adult survivor of narcissistic abuse who has no contact with every member of both sides of my parents' narc family. I'm also in therapy for the CPTSD caused by childhood trauma, currently working through all of the repressed memories coming back that started resurfacing 3 years ago. Before anyone asked, the childhood abuse had reached the level where I had developed a dissociative order at a young age since I can remember. Dissociative amnesia mainly, hence the memories being stuffed down for so long. Hi Ollie, I was wondering if yourself or any other abuse survivors out there had experienced abuse by their abusers in a public setting, in front of other people for attention seeking and humiliation purposes. It's extremely contradictory to the typical narc control tactics to silence their victim to avoid being exposed. That was very confusing for me growing up, being I knew it was all an act to keep me from telling anyone about the abuse and the abusers. I was put into a position where one of the few choices I had left was to proclaim the innocence of my parents, in hopes that this would prompt them to back off and leave me alone just for a little while. I needed a break from the abuse, what can I say? Of course, this led to Stockholm Syndrome, which they publicly pointed out the symptoms, triangulated to whoever was standing nearest to them, saying she has Stockholm Syndrome, proceeding with them looking at me and bursting out laughing, followed by them publicly making fun of me about it. Their bullying knew no bounds, I suppose. Sometimes others joined in. Some were disgusted and confronted them. Some called the police, while others didn't want to have anything to do with it and walked away. Either way, my parents had gotten the attention, chaos, and drama they wanted. That was a favorite game of theirs, getting the police involved, manipulating law enforcement to buy their bullshit, then actually getting away with the very thing that the police were called there for. Ending with my mother's proud declaration to those that were left standing around watching, I win. She waited till the police left before doing this, with the grand finale, my covert narc father's pat on the back, crocodile tears pity party, before grabbing me, tossing me into the car and leaving. And everyone we knew wondered why I had zero respect for my father as a child. They actually threatened to have the word tool tattooed on my forehead for being a defiant child, aka not going along and refusing to publicly participate in their bullshit. All I did was sit on the ground with my mouth shut and take slaps in the face, etc., and watch my crazy parents publicly make fools of themselves. My last therapy session, which was a few days ago, was going over how it didn't make any sense to me how people could see a battered black and blue small child being smacked around in front of their eyes and not do anything. I asked how a grown, intelligent adult could believe my mother's manipulation, being in complete denial while the evidence was standing there right in front of their face. How, after all of that, grown-ass people could believe my mother when she pointed at a 5-year-old little girl, shift blame and openly declare, she beats me, wah, followed by the pathetic act of crying and whining about how horrible and evil a child I was. My mom was immaculately cleaned, expensive clothes, perfect hair, perfect makeup, bragging about how she didn't have a blemish on her, without a single bruise, scratch, mark, or any other signs of physical abuse. Me, on the other hand, I was filthy. I hadn't been allowed to bathe for weeks, wasn't allowed to change clothes or even take them off, wasn't allowed to brush my teeth or hair. Needless to say, I stunk. I might as well have been the poster girl for child neglect, and I was abusing her. She really let me have it when I finally spoke and told her, on what planet does that make any sense on? Cue the narc rage. Anyway, the answer I had gotten from my therapist was Munchausen by proxy. I had suspected that with other occurrences, but hadn't brought it up myself in therapy sessions. I'm not really sure if your channel goes in this direction, Holly. Please excuse if it doesn't. I appreciate all you do. Thank you, Anonymous. Well, this is something I have a lot of personal experience with. The the public humiliation was it is my father's game, was me Normus's game. Would love to do this constantly. Stand there, and it usually occurred, it always occurred in front of his family. So if we were at his family, I knew I was in for it. And it happened in front of their friends too. Okay, where my father would stand up there and basically hold court, making fun of me. Making fun of me about this or making fun of me about that. And, you know, the whole family would start laughing. And the only one who ever told them to stop was his mother, Lucy, my grandmother. Said she didn't like it. She knew what he was doing. Because he thought it was so funny and made him feel better. It was only funny at somebody else's expense. That's the only time that guy would ever be funny. The other way he would like to publicly humiliate me. Now, he didn't really hit me in the house that much. He really didn't. Out in public, in front of an audience, and it would be out of nowhere for just being a kid, he would just come after me and just hit me for no reason. And I talked about this in some early videos. The birthday parties I would get hit at. You know, my mother would invite her friends over who had kids. And there was this one kid, Christian, who was basically gay from birth. And every birthday he would come, and my father would tell me, you're responsible how Christian behaves. And if he gets out of line, I'm beating you. Like, I couldn't control this kid. First of all, he was 2 years younger than me, or a year younger than me. He was gay, so he was like highly streety at 5, 6 years old. And you couldn't control it. So he would start screaming. I would have nothing to do with it. And then here come my father out of nowhere, and I'd start getting beat up on my own at my own birthday party. To exert power, to exert control. In his mind, that made him feel like a big man. And in his mind, he thought other people looked at that as him controlling his kids and not taking any bullshit. And, you know, meanwhile, everybody's looking at him sideways, but he doesn't realize it. Nobody actually will call him out on it. Same with my mother. Same with my mother. My mother was just crazy at any time, any place, anywhere. It didn't matter if it was in public or not. Hers is just pure narc drunken rage at all times. There's no thought really behind it. It's just chaos all the time. It's not Stockholm Syndrome, because Stockholm Syndrome, you end up sympathizing with your abuser and taking their side. This isn't Stockholm Syndrome. This is hostage. This is hostage manipulation. You haven't turned. You're just going along so you don't get killed. That's not Stockholm Syndrome. You weren't empathizing with your parents. All you were trying to do was make the beatings stop. Now, if it was so bad that the police got called and she was able to talk her way out of it, you know, somebody sees that happening who's not personally involved, not family involved, if not direct family involved, they're going to give up. They're going to give up. Because what are you supposed to do? The woman in front of witnesses does this, has the police called on her, and then talks her way out of it, and then brags that I win. And then because you're so afraid you're not going to speak up, that's how it works. So by you not speaking up, that's why she beat you. She beat you so you would shut up, and the rest of everybody else looks stupid. Now, why anybody would hang out with them or want anything to do with them after that is beyond me. I mean, I don't think that this is so much a question of why didn't people believe you? Like, people believed you. I think they just felt, well, there's nothing we can do about it. And you also have to take the time it happened into consideration as well. Cops didn't bat an eyelash if parents hit us or yelled at us back then. They didn't know what to do about it. They didn't know what to do about it, especially if the parent says it did, if the child says it didn't happen. Look, I'm imagining this happened many years ago, and I'm imagining it happened at the hands of baby boomers who know how to lie, who knew how to use the era they were in and knew they could get away with it, and that's why it happened. Listen, even if the cops were called when I was a kid, I don't think they would have done anything, because I don't think the laws were in place at that time to do anything, because I really didn't have any marks on me. Now you did. Now you're saying you smelled and you went to school dirty. You know, this is something I've talked a lot about on my channel. A lot about on my channel when growing up and being ignored. And why doesn't anybody help? Why doesn't anybody help? Why doesn't anybody help? Well, in your case, who's going to help? The people who already tried to help, whether they were friends or family, okay, basically got the tables turned on them when your mother talked her way, when your parents talked their way out of it, and then threw you in the car anyway. And the schools, well, you already know how I feel about teachers, okay? They don't give a shit. They're there for the paycheck and the pension and the benefits, okay? They can, most of them could give a shit what happens to those students when they leave. Okay, so there are several contributing factors to why people don't get involved, especially back then. Because you wouldn't even know how to put this into words back when this happened to you, when it happened to me, when it happened to you. We didn't even know how to put this into words. That's why we're all here now. We're just trying to break through with this now, making sense of it. There's no way, if we didn't even understand it then, because how could we as children? And it took us so long into our adult lives to even start putting our fingers on it. Then, look, and as much as I don't want to let adults off the hook, I think a lot of times they just didn't know what the hell they were dealing with when you consider all the social factors, all the environmental factors of the time period when this actually happened. You're going to continue to have these repressed memories coming up, and you're going to have to deal with them one by one individually. But I think your therapist is wrong in calling this Stockholm Syndrome. See, Stockholm Syndrome, they actually believe, the hostage actually turns out believing this shit and becomes that's not the case here. You just did it so the beatings would stop and kept your mouth shut. That's like mafia intimidation. This is mob tactics, not Stockholm Syndrome. It's what the mob does to get people to shut up and not talk. It's one step below killing you. That's what the narcissist shut up tactics are. It's one stage short of killing you. So it's not a matter of they had anybody fooled. I just don't think at that point, what do you do? With other witnesses and the police don't do anything, and the child who's supposedly getting abused, not supposedly on your end, supposedly when the cops are showing up there and they do nothing, then what? Who do you turn to when the police won't help you? Who do you turn to? That lies the problem many of us faced, and quite frankly, why we ended up in the situation we're in now. So, thank you so much for your contribution. Thank you for your story. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, a narcissist you'd like to expose, or you'd like to set up a Skype chat or have a private video made, you know what to do with the PayPal and email links in the description box. I'll have the video right back to you. This is Ollie Matthews. Thanks for watching. See you all again soon. Bye.